Number 30. Thomas makes a mistake. Oh boy, what can I say about this other than it's a plotline we've seen again and again and again so many times. Thomas makes a mistake in almost every episode he's in. So why make an episode that already has him making constant mistakes and trying to avoid getting into trouble? And even when the Indian engines try to help Thomas by telling him he needs to own up, he still does whatever the hell he has to do to avoid the problem entirely, thus getting him in more trouble. I think we've all pretty much lost count at how many times Thomas has made a mistake throughout the series. I would say it's at least well over 100, maybe even more. This was just a completely stupid idea that didn't really need to exist. Number 29. Emily's Adventure. Emily's characterization throughout the new series bugs the hell out of me. Why write her this way? She was perfectly fine when she was introduced in Season 7. Her bossiness, lack of patience, and how rude she is to everyone, these are the key things that are very irritating to sit through. Later on in future episodes, it clearly shows that she didn't learn a thing! Plus, how was this exactly an adventure? This was anything but. If this was the writer's way of saying it's her little adventure into asking someone nicely for help, well, that's kinda dumb if you ask me. Again, this is just one of the many episodes that made me really dislike Emily. She does have a few hidden gems here and there, but most, like this one, are exactly why I don't care for her. Number 28. Forever and Ever. Gordon's betrayal in this can basically be summed up in 3 simple words.
Disgraceful.
Disgusting.
Despicable.
For a big engine, he certainly isn't acting very maturely about this whole thing. So Edward and Henry are leaving Tidmouth. Big deal! How many times have they not been there before? And all of a sudden you're gonna make a huge deal about it? Grow up, Gordon, my god! Not to mention one specific part, I felt like I was on a goddamn acid trip. Only a clown would get a kick out of this. Number 27. Mighty Mac. Even as a kid, I never cared for Mighty Mac. Sure, design-wise he may look cool, but personality-wise, the both of them are idiotic. I cannot stand listening to them bicker throughout this whole episode. It's like I'm listening to a copy of Brunswick and Bayswater who were just as annoying. And you really mean to tell me that these two don't know how to work together by this point in their introduction? And you really don't know how to get to a simple little platform? You worked in the shunting yards for how long? And not for nothing, the piece of advice that Thomas gave you, look at where you want to go, and follow the track that will take you there, you could probably do that in the shunting yard, no? And you can't figure that out now? Like, what? But the biggest gripe I have with this is how their bickering caused a great big landslide. Here's a question. How the hell are these two even still working? Get these two out of my sight. Number 26. The Magic Lamp. Well, let's start with the elephant in the room, shall we? There was absolutely no point bringing in Proteus. He is one of the most pointless characters to ever exist. The other thing is, this doesn't exactly feel like a Peter Sam story. The way he behaves all throughout this episode doesn't really make all that much sense. This feels like this would have been better suited for someone like Sir Handel. His Season 4 personality would have fit a story like this so much better. And once again, we're back to a 3-strike deal, which... how many times have we seen that plotline already? Not for nothing, but how many times has that incline of theirs broke? Sounds like a piece of crap if you ask me. Just like this complete nonsense of an episode. Number 25, Thomas's Not So Lucky Day. By far, the stupidest episode from season 24. I don't think I've seen anything more ridiculous than this. Did you really feel the need to shoehorn this Friday the 13th bullshit into the series? We already have 2 lucky episodes. One of them is good, one of them is terrible. Why do we need a third that's twice as bad? Half the shit Thomas even does in this is just stupid! And for the love of God, stop listening to Lorenzo! He's not an expert on this shit. At the end of the day, I don't think Thomas is the one with the bad luck. I think we all are when we were cursed with this horrible episode. Number 24, Mountain Marvel. Why are you bringing up Proteus again? He doesn't exist! And even if he did, what can he do that was so special that they just had to make him a freaking statue? To me, Peter Sam does act a bit selfishly, wanting to keep all the glory to himself. You would never see him act this way. Not for nothing, but he has his own delivery to make, and he's too worried about the damn statue. The biggest gripe I have is towards the end, when he tries to pull the churns and the statue. The load just all of a sudden became heavy. You know, he could have done his job and then went back to go and get the damn statue. And then all of a sudden the hill mysteriously got steep, and then he backed into a random set of buffers that just so happened to appear after all this time. No, no. Let's just drop the whole Proteus nonsense, please. We all know he doesn't exist, right? Right? Number 23, Grudge Match. Ever since the Great Race, Raoul didn't look like a very interesting character to begin with. But when this episode came out, I now despise him. This entire time, he's held a grudge against Thomas for beating him in the Great Race, and he's now this desperate to beat him at something? Are you kidding me? I don't even know why Thomas agreed to do all those dumb things with Raoul in the first place! I will say, towards the end when Raoul snaps his chain and dangles off the rails, I really wouldn't have cared if he fell, if I'm being completely honest. That would serve him right, trying to prove he's the greatest by wasting his and Thomas's time with these stupid games. Number 22, Rocky Rescue. I don't even like the concept of the Sodor Search and Rescue team for one, and this just proves how incompetent they are as a team. Since season 14, you mean to tell me that these guys really don't know how to work together? I'm not buying it. Not for nothing, but these characters are hardly even around anymore. Belle, Flynn, and Butch are so underused. Captain's a nobody at this point. I'm surprised they're even bothering to keep him around still. Rocky is just here and there. Personally, the only one I really care about on this team is Harold. I could really give a about the rest. I mean, if all of them are really worried about who's better at what when there's an emergency to deal with, then this team needs to take a freaking hike. Number 21, The Man in the Hills. This story doesn't even make any sense. How did this man in the hills all of a sudden become such a huge deal to the narrow gauge engines? All it really is just a silhouette in the rocks.
Lame!
And what even are these special gifts you're going to give to Mr. Percival? Decorations, flowers, balloons, and banners? These are not real presents! But the one thing that I absolutely hate about this is how the engines knew they had all this work to do, and yet they foolishly stayed waiting for Thomas to basically outdo them in giving Mr. Percival the best present. Meanwhile, Thomas is just grabbing people left and right, thinking that they're this imaginary figure when they have all this food to make for the party. Typical Thomas for you, am I right? This was a dumb idea that once again did not need to exist. Number 20, Topped Off Thomas. Why is this even a thing? Racing and talking to the wind? The wind doesn't have magical ears where it can actually hear you. Along with the race with Spencer, did the both of them not realize how dangerous that is? Of course not. You two are too busy trying to see who's faster. And this whole chasing a hat thing, once again under the 3-strike rule, is just dumb. It's just a hat. I'm sure SDH has plenty of them stashed in a closet somewhere. I also feel like it's a bit of an exaggeration to look this fancy to a small T. Give me a break. Either go and get a new hat, or don't go at all. Simple. Number 19. Push me, pull you. Skarloey has definitely had his fair share of bad episodes, but this one completely tops them all. What we have here is yet another character trying to keep all the fun to themselves, plus it's also a case of trying to prove who's stronger for a small portion. This bickering between Skarloey and Rheneas was not needed, and neither was this bullshit tug-of-war game. Especially if Rheneas just ends up helping Skarloey later on in the episode. But my biggest problems with this are as follows. First, I'm not buying that the Puppet Show special was a heavy load. Nothing on those trucks looks even remotely close to being heavy, so Skarloey could have easily stopped. Second, how did Skarloey suddenly lose control again when he met up with Rusty? And what the hell is Rusty's logic when he hears Skarloey calling? He stops in the middle of the tracks! And don't you just love how the points were conveniently set towards the pond? The writing and characterization for this episode was garbage. I would say this is probably the worst of Season 12. Number 18. Thomas and the Billboard. For Thomas to go through all of this trouble just to keep Diesel from the new photo is completely stupid on his part. And all because he thought it was done on purpose. What he should have done when he saw the first billboard, he could have, I don't know, asked to take a new one and explain what happened? The loads that were even given out. A clown, a brass band, and decorations? Why do you have to go all out for something that's not even that exciting? It's just a freaking billboard. Not for nothing, but why the hell is Diesel even here? I thought there was this big vendetta between the Diesels and Steamies. What, did that concept just get tossed out the window all of a sudden? If there was one word to describe this episode, it would definitely be awful. Number 17. Emily's best friend. Ugh, I can't even with this one. Looking for a best friend is apparently more important than doing your own work. That's logical. If anything, this episode reminds me of the Theodore Tugboat episode Best Friends, just altered a lot. Compared to Emily's best friend, the Theodore version is 1,000 times better. How Emily went about this whole thing was completely unnecessary. Why did she feel the need to have a best friend while doing her work? She never did before. Besides, all of the engines are friends, so... I can buy the whole best friend thing with Thomas and Percy, but Gordon and Rebecca, James and Nia, these guys are all of a sudden best friends? No, no, I'm not buying it! And I don't know about the rest of you, but that fantasy sequence was probably one of the weirdest ones ever. I mean, really. Selfies, throwing snowballs, and kiddie rides? Did they really just go down that path? Unbelievable. Number 16. Ding-a-ling. I liked Freddy when he first appeared in Fearless Freddy, although I'm still very unsure how he even got that name in the first place. But when this episode came along, my liking for him diminished drastically. Supposedly, Freddy is the oldest and wisest of the narrow gauge engines. Okay, well if that's true, then you mean to say that he doesn't know what the hell a bicycle bell is, or even where to find one? Then he obviously isn't that wise according to the irritating 3-strike rule. And you're really that afraid to ask for help just because James told you off? I think Freddy's pride is what killed him here. Plus, in terms of voice, how did you go from this deep and gruff voice to this weirdly southern-sounding voice?
Fearless Freddy is back.
Of course I know where to find a bicycle bell.
What exactly was the point of that? If you're gonna give these characters distinct voices, just stick with what you have! Bottom line, all I have to say about this episode is, once again, another dumb one. Number 15. Henry and the Wishing Tree. I've heard of wishing wells, but nope. Only Sodor can come up with a freaking wishing tree. I'm not even angry at the fact Henry was dumb enough to even try it. It's the fact that, all of a sudden, this dude don't know how to pull passengers. I'm sorry, what? Did somebody writing this actually make Henry this stupid? How do you go from pulling passengers all throughout the classic series, then you just magically forget to where you're bumping these poor and biffed all this fake looking food? What? For real, when is the last time we saw Henry pull coaches? Season 7? 6? Again, I'm not even mad at the whole wishing on a tree thing. I could really give a about that. Which, yes, the concept is still bad. But what pisses me off is how Henry's character is once again tarnished by poor writing. By the way, this mother did not just stop on the job to make a wish. What? Number 14. Don't go back. Okay, since when is it a good idea to race in a dangerous place of work? There are engines at work, and here are Thomas and Diesel trying to see who is the fastest. Oh yeah, the Vendetta also came back so suddenly. Don't you just love that? This careless goofing around is something we've already seen in Big Bang and Kevin the Steamy. In Big Bang, Thomas and the Little Engines are playing jokes on one another. Meanwhile, there's work to be done. And you're gonna tell me that no workman saw any of this bullshit happening? And in Steamy, Kevin is playing with Thomas and Percy near dangerous machines and other people on the job. Yeah, that's real safe. It's the same with these two. First off, racing backwards that took Mavis off the track and sent Ari and Bert right through the shed. Plus, Henry's train isn't ready. You idiots. I want to know who approves of these stories, I really do. You're basically telling children that it's okay to play in dangerous places. Doesn't matter if they or someone else gets hurt, right? Well, you know what I think about this?
These scribbles are a bunch of cockamamie balderdash. Excuse my French.
Je ne sais quoi sacre bleu au revoir.
Number 13. The Green Controller. What is this constant trend of having engines run a freaking railway? Are you really that lazy to find another human to run it? Why is Sir Topham allowing one of his youngest engines to run Sodor? Why didn't he just choose Lady Hat? I'm sure she could have done it. We all know how Percy screws up a lot. So, yeah, bad choice. And I'm not at all surprised that they just had to make merchandise out of this freaking thing. Admittingly, I do own a prototype wooden railway that I now wish I never owned. Someone hand me a Molotov or something. Topham was drunk or something when he made this choice. Just like the knuckleheads who greenlit this stupid episode. Number 12. Rosie's Funfair Special. Yeah, I used to like this episode back in the day, but now it does nothing for me. There are so many things in this that really bug me. First, Rosie acting like a little because she has to be a back engine for this train. You know, you're still helping to pull it, so get over yourself. Next, Emily had to go to High Farm, not Hill Farm. Hill Farm is in the high hills of Sodor. Get your facts straight, Rosie. Third, why would you tease us with Stepney? There was absolutely no reason that he had to be brought back if he was never going to be used again after this episode. And lastly, the one thing that really irritates me, how are the couplings breaking so easily? That to me doesn't make any sense. If they're this old, then why are you using these specific trucks for a special? I know there's probably a good amount of people that like this episode. I'm sorry, but it just makes me sick. Number 11. Thomas's frosty friend. And... yeah, you heard me correctly. I said and. Don't be silly, Billy. Well, these two were really hard to choose between, and I hate them both for the exact same reason. The 5-strike rule. Let me explain. Frosty Friend is so frustratingly bad that my ears bleed whenever I hear this. First, I love how the balloon just magically hitched itself onto Thomas. Then he encountered this thing 5 times on his journey.
What are you doing here, Mr. Snowman? You must go back to the children, tooted Thomas. They'll be very sad without you. Mr. Snowman, I told you to go back to the children. Why are you still following me? Mr. Snowman, I told you to go back to the children. Why are you still following me? Mr. Snowman, I told you to go back to the children, cried Thomas. Why are you still following me? Mr. Snowman danced in front of Thomas again. He was still following him.
And then James, Nicole, and Emily tried to tell him it was a balloon from a clear listening distance. Yeah, Thomas, I got a question. Are your ears broken? Don't be silly is literally just a rehash, but with an irritating little to deal with. Let this sink in. 5 times he had to be told by Thomas to do his jobs properly. But no, according to Billy, that's being bossy apparently.
Thomas, stop telling me what to do. You are a very bossy engine. Don't tell me what to do, Thomas. You are a very bossy engine. Stop telling me what to do, Thomas. You are a very bossy engine. Stop telling me what to do, Thomas. You are a very, very bossy engine. Thomas, stop telling me what to do. You are a very bossy engine.
I'm sorry, Billy. We'll leave you alone. I and all of us forgot that you're such an expert at these particular jobs. Personally, if that were me in Thomas's place after seeing Billy run out of coal and water, I would have left him there. Him. Number 10. Edward strikes out. I have 3 questions. Why? Why? And why? This Edward is an imposter. We would never see him behave like this. I think that's been mentioned time and time again. Why is Edward the bad guy here? I can see this coming from Gordon, cause he's a maybe even James if he were possibly written for this. Edward normally has his buffers wide open for newcomers. Oh wait! Not all the time!
He doesn't even look like an engine.
And since when did Edward start listening to Gordon? He never did before. So why now? This is also a case where I really don't give a about Rocky. He's just there most of the time. I really can't say anything else about this, other than it's just a pile of
Schmebulok. Yeah, exactly. It's a total load of schmebulok.
Number 9. Lorenzo Solo. I really had high hopes for Lorenzo to be another really good international character, and he failed. After his debut in Minds of Mystery, I was really starting to like him. But after this, I think he needs to disappear in that mine again. You were really that ignorant to leave Beppis behind so that you could pull this famous opera singer? You know, you could have just put the special coach in between. No? Oh, that's right, I forgot! We're trying to teach the kids something here! And that is how to completely ditch your friends to make yourself look cool and more important. What idiot thought that was logical? Number 8. Panicky Percy. Admittingly, when this first aired, I didn't think it was that bad. However, when I saw it a second time, it really didn't hold up, and I see where the argument lies. Percy's anxiety skyrockets to unbelievably over-exaggerated proportions. He's probably the wimpiest out of all the Steamies. How is that all of a sudden? I mean, this dude braved bad weather to help out a friend, saved another friend from nearly dying. Hell, he was even buried alive for sakes. And he's really this worried about an avalanche? I'll admit, I've been struggling with anxiety for a long while now, but even my levels are not this extreme. Are you really trying to ruin Percy's character? Because it seems like it to most of us. This dude has been through so much, and you've reduced him to an engine afraid of his own shadow. Thanks. Really appreciate it. Number 7. Apology Impossible. I knew James was a pompous asshole, but this? What the actual... Why was he made into such a bully here? Everything he did to Philip and the other engines. I don't think I have ever been this with James. This is a new major low, even for someone like him. What I can't figure out is why it took Philip this long to get STH involved. But the one thing I believe that triggered a whole lot of people was when Philip tried to stand up to James, but he continued to act all snooty. Philip just viewed everything and backed up with the others to let James pass. That's basically implying that you can't stand up to bullies. It's like they're saying, hey bullies, I'm a free doormat you can just walk all over. What kind of fantasy world do we live in where that would be an appropriate action? After this horrific display, I don't know guys, I think it might be time to do some rethinking for my favorite character. Number 6. Emily Knows Best. As I said, Emily is not one of my favorites, and this episode just made me hate her even more. Don't you just love when characters claim that they all of a sudden know how to do certain things? It's irritating, isn't it? Emily needs to learn to keep her nose out of other engines' work, unless asked to help. Nobody asked her to tell Percy what to do when Toby was working with him. Of course, naive little Percy just had to listen to her and not wait for Toby to come back. Why? Because little Miss Emily wanted to play queen and boss others around. And you know what happened? Percy crashed, causing Mavis and Toby to crash, which ruined his cow catchers, the loads were all over, and the telephone line was down. Good job, Emily. Good job. Alright, before we go breaking into the top 5 worst, I want to go over some of the more dishonorable mentions that I have listed. And believe me when I say, there are a lot. Fergus breaks the rules. I do not understand this episode at all. What rule did Fergus break exactly? The fact that he left the job at a place that he technically was not even supposed to be? What? You know, these characters really have a bad habit of not asking. Fergus's crew was literally right there when they heard this bull story. Why didn't you confirm this with STH if you knew ahead of time that Diesel causes trouble? Idiots! Henry gets it wrong. Are you kidding me right now? You did not just bring back the wishing tree. How the hell is this thing still relevant? Oh, it's such an important landmark, right? It's a tree. If it falls, it falls. If it regrows, then it'll regrow. That's what trees do. You know, Henry acted very similar in Flagpole, but not as bad. And admittingly, it is a bit of a guilty pleasure. But blocking the lines doesn't exactly help anyone either, Henry. Which, by the way, I love how they think that is gonna save this tree. You watch, the next storm that blows in, that freaking thing will come right down. Tuneful toots. It ain't even the sound of the horn that makes me hate this episode, even though that's one of the many sounds that gets under my skin. But it's the fact that every single narrow gauge engine turned on Rusty because this dude was showing off. I mean, we don't physically see Skarloey, Rheneas, or Duncan say anything about Rusty's horn, but we got this.
That was Rusty. He thinks his horn is special, but we don't.
Right, because all y'all are just so much better sounding, right? Really love the friendship here, guys. Good job. Duncan and the hot air balloon. Well, obviously this is just a discount James and the Red Balloon, just heavily redone. Duncan was acting pretty selfishly, but I put most of the blame on Percival. Why did he wait until the last minute to give Duncan the full plan for his twins? Which, by the way, I love how that all of a sudden was brought up. What really is the deal with all these frickin' Sodor folk taking balloon rides? This ain't the 1850s, folks. In the words of a well-known comedian,
I hope the next guy gets hit by lightning. It flies around in little fart circles. And lands in a sewage treatment pond. And sinks with the rest of the
Mr. Lighter Than Air.
Stuck in gear. And now they ruin Harvey's character. Fantastic. How are you still worried about the other engines teasing you? I thought we were past this already. And you're bent about making a little fuss over your crane when there are branches literally wedged in your gears? You don't want to go to the Steamworks to maybe fix the problem? Nah, we're gonna plow right through trees, nearly run people over, and push ourselves off the track. Awesome decision making.
Sometimes, a bit of a fuss is what's needed to get the job done.
You took the words right out of my mouth, Thomas. Which way now? I could see Duncan pulling some like this, but Rusty? To my knowledge, Rusty is usually careful with his work, is he not? And here he ends up putting the signs and delivering his passengers to all the wrong places. Plus, why is the Topham family having a day in the hills? What, your railway wasn't good enough to pick a nice spot? And why did you specifically require Rusty? Did you not know there are other engines? Not for nothing, why didn't you confirm with Mr. Percival if Rusty was free? Hello? And I don't even know if this is just me, but is anyone else irritated at the fact that Brandon once again changed the voice for Rusty?
It's time to go. I can't be late for Sir Topham Hatt.
All right, but only if you have time and can do a good job.
Again, this is just Duncan's persona mushed into Rusty, which totally ruined his character. Saved you. Stop it forever, Thomas. Nobody asked you to stick your nose in others' business just because you're trying to act like everyone's hero. Stop it. And why are we really celebrating the rescue of a cat? It's a cat. It ain't nothing that special. But because it's the cat that belongs to the wife of the Fat Controller, oh, we have to make a big, huge deal about it. Cause people like firefighters apparently don't do that on a regular basis on Sodor. How odd. Where are these people's awards for actually handling dangerous fires back from the classic series and onwards? That is what they should be awarded for. You want to get a cat down from a tree? Call Mr. Incredible. Follow that flower. We all know Thomas can be a cheeky little But this right here ain't even funny. Thomas, my dude, you wasted a whole truckload of flour that you well knew was for the children's supper. But you weren't thinking about that, because the little bug that crawled far up your little blue went ahead and did it anyway because you were jealous of James. How did you just see it moments after you were caught? Unbelievable! Oh, and by the way, the flour is in a dirty truck again. I'm not eating anything when it's been in that. James the Super Engine. I'm sorry if there were people that do enjoy this, but it just didn't click with me. I really don't see this as a James-related story. As cliche as it sounds, I feel like this would have been better for Thomas or Percy. Maybe even Rebecca. I just can't wrap my mind around the fact that nobody could figure out it was James. I mean, his number was showing, and did we all suddenly forget this?
There was only one big red engine on the island, and everyone knows his name is James.
I guess we did. Listen, by no means am I saying it's not okay to pretend, but I just felt it wasn't right for James. Especially when I hear him say something like,
Holy buffer plates!
Edward and the mail. How does he not know how to pull the mail train by this point in the series? Shouldn't be that difficult. But wait.
Edward can do it. Yes, Edward knows how to do everything. Everyone thinks I know how to do everything. I hope I get it right.
What the hell gave you all that idea that Edward is a perfect engine? Not in this era, he ain't. What doesn't help is that the parcels look exactly the same. So how was Edward supposed to know what parcels go to where? That's right, you should have asked, but you didn't, because you didn't want to look silly. Is anyone else sick and tired of this plot by now? If you don't know how to do something, just ask! It isn't that hard! Signals crossed. Oh my god, stop being such a god wimp, Toby. You've been to this station how many times? And you're afraid of the junction?
Every engine on Sodor knows that you don't like Knapford Junction.
Funny, I don't recall anyone mentioning that until now. Seems like Toby is another one they really don't know how to write. Toby is how old? And you downgrade him to this poor shaking in his cow catchers? I am so sick of the poorly executed writing for old characters such as he. Here's an idea. Write them the way they are supposed to be written. Steady Eddie. This is yet another of the small handful of episodes that ruined Edward's character. Since when does he give a about being noticed? Do not turn into a James on us, Eddie. I think it's already been pointed out that the season 22 episode, The Water Wheel, is yet a rehash, once again, but on major doses of Even the name, Steady Eddie. What kind of bull is this? Where did this nickname all of a sudden come from? And it isn't just Edward. You got Trusty Rusty and Excellent Emily. What did these characters do to deserve these nicknames? Nothing. Not to my knowledge, at least. I'm getting tired of these character-ruined episodes. Enough already! Thomas and the Monkey Palace. Alright. I'll admit the monkeys are kinda cute, but once again, that's not enough to make the episode better. Obviously, what threw me way off was the fantasy sequence. Let this sink in a minute. Thomas's fairy god controller, which is literally Jerubala, made Thomas the Monkey King. Seems like you're more worried about monkeys than doing your work, huh, Thomas? You really are an idiot sometimes, you know that? I also love how Rajiv makes out the monkeys to be these troublesome creatures just because they tried to steal his oh-so-precious crown. Newsflash, no one gives a Oh, and there's one other thing I almost forgot.
Imagine me, Rajiv, without a crown. I'd be like, well, just another ordinary engine like you, I suppose. but I mean that in a nice way.
Off! Number 5. Crowning Around. Once again, another international character gone wrong. Rajiv is literally just an Indian version of James, but twice as irritating. Except James is a lot more tolerable, in some cases. What really grinds my gears is that this is yet another rehash of a previously made episode. Rajiv loses his beloved crown, goes into freaking panic mode trying to find it, and thinks he can't do his jumps like normal unless he's wearing it. Doesn't this sound oddly familiar to Henry's lucky trucks? Henry searches everywhere for his trucks on the way to the airport, but he keeps getting stuck. With all these hiccups, he believes it's the trucks that make him so lucky that he runs on time every goddamn day. And then he has this mindset that he can't be really useful unless he's pulling his lucky trucks. I've also seen this plotline in a few other kids shows, and looking back, they really don't hold up. I don't like this particular storyline for any show, and I think it just needs to die out. You do not need an object to remind you whether or not you're a good worker. Just saying. Number 4. Thomas and the New Engine. I don't understand why the writers had to make Thomas interact so harshly to the newbies. This is a repetitive arc that nobody wants to see constantly. In fact, how many times has Thomas done this? Let's recap. So here we have Thomas judging Neville for hanging around the Diesels. He tells his friends what he saw. The rest of the engines are now spreading rumors, thus making poor Neville public enemy number 1. Next, Rosie just mysteriously appears and is so into Thomas that she tries to copy him. Thomas is appalled by this and insists he doesn't need any help. Meanwhile, his gets stuck in the mud. And this is why you'll never have a girlfriend, Thomas.
Thomas and Rosie sitting in a tree.
Shut up! Thomas is then rude to Stanley, thinking nobody likes him anymore just because Stanley took over his Great Waterton job, causing him to enact in some foolish antics. Running away in the mine and knocking over the tower. Smooth move, asshole. Ryan then shows up and Thomas's masculinity dramatically drops when he feels like SDH is replacing him. He even goes above and beyond to trick Ryan about the bad cold, which in turn caused the dynamite to ignite. And if not put out, then all you sorry would have blown up. Then Ashima comes to Sodor and Thomas is to her, all because of one little bump that nearly made the fall headfirst into the sea. Hey, maybe he needs a good dunk. And then Hugo arrives, and it isn't just Thomas who judges him, the whole Steam team does without any context whatsoever. I don't care if they realized how wrong they were in the end, it was still a move, and I'm gonna count it. And of course, all Nia wanted to do was help out, and what did Thomas do? Shoved her aside and treated her like dirt. Basically, the voices in Thomas's head were literally saying,
Nia, I want Ace!
And to think this all started with Emily when she first arrived. Obviously, she didn't know she had Thomas as coaches, and yet everyone treated her poorly. However, some might say that the anger here is completely justified, but because this is my list, guess what? Obviously, Thomas isn't like this all the time, so I still don't understand why this arc of his is really all that necessary. It's lazy writing. Speaking of which, Neville is probably one of the worst characters they brought to the series. There's nothing to him. This was his debut episode and all he says is,
Hello!
Then he's reduced to background character from here on out. What a waste of potential! But I think you all know why Neville was brought here. Alright, enough rambling about this one. Let's move on, shall we? Number 3. Cyclone Thomas. What moron thought this storyline was a good idea? Thomas so claims to be jealous of Isla because she's a medical plane, thus leading him to prance around like he's an actual medical train. You do realize that impersonation is a crime, right, Thomas? Are we really moving in this direction to where it's now okay for anyone to act like any profession they want and everyone is supposed to be okay with that? I understand if it's for fun and games, but when you actually think you're whatever profession and not letting the actual experts handle whatever situation, that's not okay. I can't even say anything about the cyclone part because after watching that a few times, it's not even that exciting. I swear, the writers literally have no clue what they're doing when writing these kinds of stories. In the words of Isla, this is exactly what I would tell Thomas.
Best leave this to the medical professionals.
Number 2. Trusty Rusty. Here is Season 7's worst episode. What kind of jackass is that foolish enough to remove a danger sign? Really? When Rusty says,
Don't use the old wooden bridge. It's dangerous.
how about actually listening? Gee, there's an idea. Also, why is Duncan back to hating on Rusty? I thought this was cleared up in Season 4. But
How would you know? You're only a diesel. Rusty always makes things sound worse than they are.
yeah, apparently that didn't last long. I'm confused as to why nobody even offered to help Duncan if he would have run out of coal. Oh wait, I forgot. Nobody knows how to do that. Honestly, Duncan and his head driver should have fallen. That'd teach them both. What's worse is that later on in the series, after this incident, Duncan clearly hadn't learned a thing because many episodes later, he ended up running through a barrier because...
I wanted an adventure.
And then the dumb trapped himself in the mine. I do hope the driver got sacked for this idiotic action. That kind of thing should not go unpunished. Obviously, we don't see it, but one can only hope. I just can't even with this episode. I really can't. Number 1. Too Loud Thomas. This is Thomas not only at his worst, but it's the most annoying and cringiest episode I think any one of us have had the displeasure to sit through. There goes Thomas, trying to follow on whatever the Lorenzo does. You can already sing very nicely. You do not need to know opera and copy Lorenzo and Beppis. I wanted to rip my ears out every time I heard Thomas try to sing. That voice was just so piercing, it was going right through me. So much I wanted to throw my iPad across the room. It says an awful lot when I feel that May's and Hasler's performances were very irritating. The only thing I can say that I honestly enjoyed about this was when Thomas finally shut the hell up. Freaking dumb deserved it for all I, or all of us, could really give a What didn't help was that the whistling was just as annoying. I'd like to put Thomas right up to the writer's ear and have them suffer the way we did. You guys want to hear this 24/7? Make it! Yeah, I thought so.